They'd never sell a haunted mask twice, right? If you enjoy my videos, please leave a like and subscribe. The goal is to reach 500 by the end of the year, so any support is appreciated. First is the original cover, which is simple and to the point. The old man mask from the book is front and center, trick-or-treating at a house, looking nasty as hell. The reprint gives it a more Halloween orange color scheme, which it's alright. The taglines are New Face, Old Nightmare, and Just Call him Prune Face. The second one sucks. I feel like the association with old people and prunes has practically died out in the last decade or so. The 2018 reprint has a similar composition to the original, but the mask looks enormous now, and it gives me less old man vibes, looking more like a witch or a goblin, though I guess that's the fault of both for making the mask so green. The Haunted Mask 2 is a direct sequel to the first, so while I definitely suggest watching my video on the first book, I'll give you a lightning fast recap. Carly Beth Caldwell was a girl that was teased by everyone on Earth for being a scaredy cat, especially these two boys named Steve and Chuck. On Halloween, Carly Beth went to a local costume store, snuck in the back, and left some money as she ran away with a super scary, not-for-sale mask. The mask quickly proved how scary it was, and eventually started to fuse with Carly Beth's skin and make her more aggressive. She even scared the hell out of those two boys, keep that in mind. The shopkeeper explains to her that her mask and the many others in the back are the unloved. These real living faces that he made to be beautiful only became disgusting when they left his lab, and they could only be removed by a symbol of love. What the symbol of love was, oh, I won't tell you, watch my first video. But just know that everything was totally okay in the end. So it's the next year, and what could possibly go wrong? Our main character is actually Steve Boswell, one of those bully boys from the first book. He starts by talking to us about how terrible first grade kids are, which, fair, it's true, both that statement and the fact that as soon as you reach a certain grade, you start talking shit on the kids below you. I graduated right before the great pandemic of 2020, so I got out pretty good. Anyway, him and Chuck cooked together a plan to release a squirrel into the girls' locker room, and now he's punished by coaching the first grade soccer team, the Walnut Avenue Hogs. The kids all take turns beating up Steve like a bunch of wild chimpanzees and then failing to play soccer. When it's over, they all crowd in a circle daring Steve to kick a super far goal. He makes sure to strut his stuff and brag, before screaming out in pain. Chuck catches Steve passing by his house on the way home, noticing Steve's limp. Turns out the screams were from the fact that kids created a concrete soccer ball just to destroy Steve's foot. They decide to get revenge, and Halloween is coming up soon, so it has to be scary. A few days later, another practice ends, and luckily Steve is less of a bully than you'd think. Despite all the abuse, he doesn't actually want to hurt the kids, he just wants to scare them. While still thinking about what to do, on the way home, he notices somebody. Carly Beth. Chuck pulls Steve aside and has him reminisce on the glory days of bullying from the first book, and how the haunted mask incident basically made Carly Beth fearless since that point. He doesn't even want to try and scare her, just talk about the mask. Chuck makes him anyway though, and when they jump out from some hedges, Carly Beth's friend Sabrina freaks out. Carly Beth just stares though, and then her head falls off! Everybody freaks out, but then Carly Beth laughs. She explains it's the plaster head her mom made from the last book, and luckily, she was showing the thing off in art class today. So her and Sabrina pre-planned the whole thing after discreetly seeing the boys from afar. Steve quickly changes the subject to the mask, and he wants his own so he can scare those kids, but Carly Beth talks all about how it was evil and came to life. The boys steal the plaster head and play monkey in the middle with it, only promising to return it if she spills the beans on where she got the mask. So of course she fesses up, and Carly Beth begs him not to go, but little did he know that horror was just beginning. One of those cliffhangers. Feel like we get one of those all the time now. This chapter begins with more soccer torture. It's picture day and a rainstorm just cleared up before the afternoon, so of course Steve's entire fresh fit gets turned into a muddy mess. Chuck even says he looks like a mud monster, meaning either You Can't Scare Me or Goosebumps as a book series exists in the universe. Cool. When he gets home, there's this really weird thing where he makes a clear reference to say he changes into a Georgetown Hoyas sweatshirt his uncle sent him. The sweatshirt's red and gray, except this is a basketball team that is explicitly white, gray, and blue, and he has no idea what the word Hoya means, me either, but it's a cool sweatshirt. It's a tangent so out of nowhere it's making me make a tangent about it. When it comes to actual plot progression though, he grabs his allowance and heads to the dreaded Halloween store. The party place, as it's called, is completely empty. Chuck tries to cheer him up by saying there isn't a sign saying the place is shut down, but if I were the owner, I would leave after the last incident. Nothing can really cheer him up because no mask will be as scary as the ones from this store. He knows the kids will be smart enough to see through anything else. But then, something amazing! Down an alleyway, a large black basement door is open. The door to the party place. It's full of a bunch of boxes. Maybe he hasn't removed all the stock yet. Maybe we can steal a mask. Steve is so excited he slips on the wet step and does stick the landing. Luckily, as a young dude, he can absorb that impact. Chuck is a little scared to come down in the dark, but Steve yells at him to hurry up. Also, Chuck, the biggest bully in the school, has a real problem with stealing. Sure. The rest of the chapter is literally just looking at boxes. Yuck! Chuck found the masks, just in a regular old box like everything else. Steve goes through them trying to find the scariest one. He lands on a mask of an old man grinning with a long, crooked tooth. He's got stringy yellow hair with some spiders and exposed skull poking out. Nice! He then hears footsteps above him, despite the store seeming completely empty. He asks Chuck if he heard that. Chuck? He's gone! Except he's not, he just starts sprinting out of the basement. Too late though, a light flickers on and the store owner traps him inside. He asks what he's doing and explains the store's been closed. He just lives here now. He berates him for being a thief and tries to do the same technique of paying for the mask even though it's not for sale. The man turns around to take Steve up to call his parents. He still wears that weird cape, by the way, but Steve takes the opportunity to run for it. Even though the wind shut the trapdoor, it probably isn't locked. Uh-oh. Steve makes another daring push and scrambles out just before he gets grabbed, and the man does not follow. Chuck pops out from a bush after a little, showing us yet again that he is a bitch. But all in all, everything worked out. And now he's got the mask safely hidden under his sweatshirt. Unnaturally fleshy warm, too. And then it bites him. Or did it? Maybe he was imagining things? He makes a quick excuse that he was helping Chuck to his mom and runs to hide the mask upstairs. He actually didn't remember which one he even grabbed, but the old man mask it is. He gets so absorbed into how creepy it looks he decides to put it on. Just for a second. Except Mom yells at him to come downstairs for dinner, so that'll have to wait. For the past 5 years, Steve has dressed as a hobo, but this year he'll be an old and creepy hobo. He won't tell anyone, even Chuck. Best Halloween ever! The next day is a typical hellish soccer practice, but Steve doesn't care. Tomorrow's Halloween, and that's when he'll scare everyone to death. He tells all the kids at the end they'll have a special Halloween party tomorrow, where everyone should meet up in costume after practice and go trick-or-treating together. Well, that's one way to get them all in one place. He runs home excited, even ignoring Chuck on the way, and when he goes to look at it, it's gone. He begins throwing all the pairs of socks he hid under around the room. Then he remembers this morning he anticipated his mom doing laundry and put the mask in his closet. Way to be a reliable narrator, Steve. It's an hour before dinner, no one's home, so Steve just has to scare somebody. And Chuck it will be. He slips on the mask, but then the unnatural warmth becomes too hot. It's hard to breathe. It smells horrible and burns, but he can't take the thing off. Suddenly, Steve starts feeling really weak and old. He goes to the mirror confident that seeing his reflection will make it easy to remove and marvels at how amazing it looks. He cackles, but it wasn't his voice. An old voice keeps laughing, but he's not saying anything. And then, a hand grabs his leg. Actually, it wasn't a hand, but a mouth. His dog Sparky was biting him. The mask was so convincing. Steve tries to calm Sparky down, but his voice sounds old and frail, and his limbs feel weak. He leans forward to pick up Sparky, but the dog flips out and runs away. His body feels so weak it's impossible to run after him, and while the burning sensation is gone, everything else still sucks. He tries to remove the mask, but just like with Carly Beth, there's no bottom to it. No eye holes either. The thing's completely stuck. He tries to think of what to do, but then his mom calls out to him. He can't reply loud enough with his dry old man mouth, so Mom's coming upstairs. Steve's only idea is to hobble over to the door, close it, and hold it shut. His excuse is that he's really sick all of a sudden and needs to lay down immediately. Mom even tries to tempt him with his favorite black and white cookies that she made the harrowing 2-mile out-of-her-way journey to go buy them. How horrible. The excuse works, however, and a few minutes later he remembers Carly Beth as his only hope. He makes a call to her house and her dad picks up. His voice is so old and quiet he thinks it must be a prank call. I mean, to be honest, if an old man called saying he was my preteen daughter's friend, I'd probably hang up too. So now what? At some point, Steve just falls asleep in his chair, but gets woken up by Dad banging on the door calling him for dinner. His sick excuse works again, though, and maybe they'll bring Steve some soup later. He knows he needs to think of something, but he falls asleep yet again. He wakes up to the bright early morning and his face is smooth. Somehow the mask came off. Steve jumps around for joy, and then he blinks again. Just another dream. The mask is still on his face and he's awake for real. He decides he needs to tell his mom and dad, but they left a note saying they'll be at his aunt's house until the evening to help set up his hobo costume. So now Steve has a new plan. He'll greet mom and dad in his new costume, and they'll be super impressed. He'll then go scare the first graders, and then he'll go see Carly Beth and ask her for help. Then he spoils us by saying it didn't work out the way he hoped. Mom and Dad come home and are amazed. His new costume is literally just the mask, his hobo clothes, and his grandpa's old cane, which doubles as actual support to keep him moving. While Mom is disgusted and tries to ask questions, Dad says to just let him have fun. The only thing keeping Steve going in this journey is revenge against a bunch of little kids. The journey to the scary Carpenter Mansion meetup spot is only 2 blocks away, but that doesn't mean it was easy. Steve nearly passes out a few times, but after scaring some girls on the way there, he feels revitalized. Steve slowly approaches the group of kids, and things don't go as planned. They all think he's an old man that needs help. He tries to yell out and scare them, but he just whispers, and he raises his hands up, but his cane flies away and he falls onto his back. And none of the kids are scared, just uncharacteristically concerned for an old guy with this disgusting of a face. He gives up on scaring them and decides to tell them he needs to go see Carly Beth. The kids actually start helping him walk and make fun of Steve for not showing up. He makes it to Carly Beth's house just in time to see her and Sabrina running across the lawn. He yells out to them, but they don't recognize him. Carly Beth says she'll get her dad to take care of this creep, and turns around. He quickly tries to yell out that he's Steve, and the girls manage to hear it. Carly Beth quickly deduces what went on, and he apologizes for not listening to her. He begs for help, but she says that she doesn't think she can. She invites him into the house to give us the exposition dump. Everything from before the store owner made the faces in the lab, and that they're called the Unloved, and the only way to remove it was a symbol of love. And so Steve begs to use her symbol, the plaster head, but she explains it doesn't work like that. You need your own. He takes a moment to think, but shit, I don't got one. Except maybe one thing. He asks for the girls to help him get home, and Carly Beth says she'll help, while Sabrina stays to greet some guests for her Halloween house party. On the way back, they bump into a black cat. But how could his luck get any worse, he thinks. Back at his house, they find Mom and make up enough excuses to tell her they need those black and white cookies. Mom went 2 whole miles out of her way just to get his favorite, so they must be a symbol of love. Well, yeah, Sparky found the box and ate them all. Luckily, the 1/2 of chocolate on all of the cookies didn't kill this poor dog, but unluckily for Steve, he's screwed. Quickly, Carly Beth tells him to pick up Sparky. He's always jumping onto him. He must be the symbol of love we need. After chasing the dog around with his weak old knees, he finally grabs the thing and holds it tight. And then, nothing really happens. They're at the end of their rope when Steve suggests they ask the cape-wearing mask owner what to do. They do a mid-chapter cliffhanger where he says they're closed, but who cares? He said he still lives there, so just go bother him. And they do. They bang on the door, but the guy doesn't answer. Steve suggests the basement door again, and for some weird reason, it's still unlocked. A street lamp is the only light coming in. Some of the boxes are still open, too. They quickly find the masks again and just start rifling through shit to try and find anything helpful. Carly Beth then finds a box of costumes. Inside's a tuxedo filled with spiders. It seems to perfectly go with Steve's mask, and his face begins to itch. The closer the costume gets, the more he starts to burn. Steve grabs at his face, and unexpectedly, the mask starts to come off. It floats over to the suit and starts to move. The old man's face just smiles, and he, or the costume, happily walks up the stairs. The kids laugh, so happy they practically dance down the street back home. Suddenly, a bright purple creature jumps out to scare them. In fact, it's Chuck. He says he took one of the masks from the store too, just waiting till tonight to scare everybody. And oh yeah, he also can't get the thing off. And so the cycle continues. Also, the ending doesn't really confirm anything. The masks are all called the Unloved, and the store owner said all of them need to be removed with a symbol of love. Now in this book, Carly Beth just assumes that doesn't work for every mask, and we need to find a new method. Just feels rushed. The owner doesn't even show up at the end despite them banging on his door at probably 8 p.m. Carly Beth also seems to just instinctively find out the mask has this costume counterpart, something we were never even made to think about before. It's okay though, I'm sure the next haunted mask will give us another retcon and explain why the masks have personalities and bodies in the first place. But can this book, like the first one, be improved by a banger episode? Let's see. Let me start by saying this 2-part special is almost completely different from the book, which means my attempts to keep this short enough to avoid copyright detection ain't gonna work. That's okay though, I don't make any money. Yet. Also, I'm sure you noticed Stein talking in the background, don't worry about him. The episode immediately starts with Carly Beth scaring Chuck and Steve. Most of the cast is back, except Steve has been replaced with Michael from the Cuckoo Clock of Doom, so at least we have some of our best kid actors on the job today. Steve immediately starts that monkey in the middle technique, meaning the entire first grade soccer team plot has been removed for the sake of Steve just wanting to be scary this year. Sabrina saves the heads of the store's beans haven't been spilled just yet. Instead, Carly Beth mentions she buried the first mask, and we get a scene of it floating out of the grave. That means it and the shopkeeper have some much-deserved screen time. The shopkeeper has decided today to be when he starts to throw the masks into the fire, and Halloween has brought the first mask back to possess the shopkeeper. We get some foreshadowing as Steve watches an old man walk away, and it's already Halloween. He's getting too old for trick-or-treating, so he's got to make this one a good one. The shopkeeper just shows up with the mask in broad daylight, easily pulling these kids away from the safety of civilization. Oh, look, a dog. They lose the owner, but find the open back door to the shop. Like the book, Steve looks through a bunch of junk until he finds the very clearly displayed old man mask. He runs home to try it on, and he actually is able to take it off before Mom catches him. Oh wow, cool posters, dude. Is that— oh, spiders! The commercial break comes back to a very quiet shot of that creepy-ass plaster head before the actual creepy-ass mask man stalks Carly Beth in her duck costume. She actually ties up some plot threads by explaining the ending to the last book, when her brother put the mask on. He only put it on once and immediately removed it, so that solves things. Something the book didn't and couldn't say because it had the mask attached to Steve immediately. If only we got a real Monster Blood episode where the Cuddles twist was resolved. Anyway, Sabrina has a tiger costume and Chuck is rocking a mob fit trying to act like the Godfather by stuffing cotton in his cheeks. He even mentions the Tattaglia family from the movie too, which I know the wiki doesn't mention, so fix it before I feel like it. Steve's running late, and while Sparky's adorable, he barks at the mask and Steve thinks he's a psycho, so he sure ain't a symbol of love in this one. His first victim is Chuck with a pretty good old man voice.
Is that you, Steve?
There's no Steve.
I know it's you, Steve. I can tell from your clothes.
It used to be his clothes before I took them.
Took them?
That's what I said, sonny boy.
Following CB's rules from earlier, he has to put it on one more time to have it get stuck, and oh, well, there he goes. He immediately has this strained voice and starts going berserk like CB. He starts feeling tired and wants to eat candy for energy. This grosses Chuck out, leading to an argument where Steve is basically like, "You are a worthless pussy bitch." And Chuck says, "Okay, fuck you then, bro." Chuck immediately goes to rat Steve out to the girls and he fesses up. Intercut with Steve going into diabetic shock, I guess. But he really needs a drink and has to use a cane now. Then he finally notices all the spiders on his head and the mask getting stuck. He begs some kids to help him. One even calls him an old drunk, which I didn't know we were allowed to say in this show. The mask line is gone, so the kids hightail it out of there. This one mother even says,
Help me. No.
You should be ashamed of yourself.
No, wait.
This is completely different from the book, where all the asshole kids actually thought he was an old man who needed help, despite the one in the book literally having scarier features. The plot takes a completely different turn now. The kids are all infiltrating the shop together and Steve is slowly transforming fully into an old man. Sabrina calls her Carly, so why the hell have I not been shortening it to this the whole time? They can't find the shopkeeper, who is actually over in town to terrorize Steve. The mask says that he's the evil behind what's happening, and that if he wants his young self back, he's got to steal that plaster symbol of love and bring it to the graveyard. So Steve infiltrates Carly's house pretty easily by asking for some water, somehow not alerting her mom with all this gasping for air. Conveniently, the last place for the kids to check before midnight is the graveyard, where the Flatwoods monster awaits. The mask lays out all the threats until Steve says he'll do anything. The mask even says he loves when boys grovel for him.
I love that in a boy.
Oh. Not only that, but
Help me. Please help me.
he breaks the plaster just as the kids arrive. Unfortunately, the power of Halloween is too strong to keep the mask buried, and now she will wear him forever. Oh. Well, that's the 90s for you. The shopkeeper tells him to take the mask off, explaining that his sacrifice was the symbol of love we needed to solve the plot. And I also love this little moment.
This is a little too deep for me.
A wading pool's too deep for you, Chuck.
Also, the shopkeeper just leaves. He doesn't even take the masks away to burn them, but I'm glad the kids had the intuition to do it themselves. To be honest, that probably would smell like shit. Also, the OG mask is too strong to be burned away, leading Sparky to bury him again for next Halloween. This episode was much better than the book. It's a perfect continuation of the first set of episodes, keeping all the rules pretty consistent. If you were to suggest anyone to consume any Goosebumps media, the first and second Haunted Mask TV specials are probably the best first impression. Though maybe too good of a first impression, considering how bad some of the acting and plots can be for some of the other episodes or books. A lot of people debate on whether Haunted Mask 1 or 2 is better, but I'll plant myself down to vouch for the first one. I just think there's more depth in Carly Beth's personal struggle with overcoming fear and embracing love than Steve's desire to scare some kids, then basically just being proved wrong until Carly Beth saves his ass by finding the costume. The episode, though, as I said, does improve. He has his own symbol of love moment and has a bit of introspection about getting older, which is a much better theme to tackle than whatever we had in the book. But which one did you think was better? Comment below, maybe. And again, don't forget to subscribe because in 2 weeks it's time to tackle the Headless Ghost.